Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Friday, September the 6th, 2024. Thank you for tuning in. Well, anyway, listen, guys, this whole thing, that's playing out, it's probably going to play itself out over the next 5 years. We've been through troubled periods like this before in the world's history. World War II, World War One. The Spanish influenza was a pandemic that we had back then, and we come through stuff like this. This is probably a bad one, but it's going to play itself out. And we'll tell you guys what. For the people out there, some of them are really, really worried. They're thinking the world's going to blow up in a nuclear exchange and we're going to have a nuclear winter. Don't count on it playing out that way. It's probably going to play out in ways that you do not expect. But after it's over and it's completed and you look back and you say, well, it played out the way it should have played out. It's just that I didn't see that or predict it playing out that way after it's over. But you want to still be here. You don't want to be a casualty of this, because this is going to really get a lot rougher. And basically, I guess what I'm telling you guys is just like we're on a river rafting expedition. Okay, and we're all in this giant boat together, and we're going down the rapids. But we haven't hit the rapids yet. You can hear the rapids. You get your ear. You can hear them roaring up ahead. And I'm telling you guys, I'm saying, hey, you know what? We're in for some rough stuff. But it's probably not going to play out the way you think. It's probably not going to be this. People have in their mind this picture of mushroom clouds going off everywhere and then a nuclear winter and everybody dying. Probably not going to be that way. And when it actually starts to happen, it's going to be rough, but you're probably going to wish that you had prepared for it more. You're probably going to be thankful that you have that extra can of beans in the cupboard. You're probably going to be thankful that you bought that. Maybe you'll be thankful that you bought a water making machine or whatever you do on this side. You're probably going to be thankful for those things when the time comes, That being said, let's take a look at what's going on. The government in Ukraine, Zelensky, he's pressing the top military officials to allow them to use these missiles to strike deeper inside Russia. Now, it looks like he's talking with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin here. They're both sitting there at the table, and they look like they're getting along pretty good. Looks like Austin's listening to everything Zelensky has to say, and of course they're pressing. They are pressing. Ukraine is pressing to be able to strike deeper inside Russia. How? Well, let me kind of explain the situation using an illustration. Picture, to understand what this is all about, and that this illustration is only for practical purposes to help you understand what this is all about. Pretend if Russia landed in Maine, in a fairly isolated place in Maine, and say they took some territory of the United States. In other words, an invasion. I know this sounds crazy, okay? But it would be similar to what Ukraine has done in the Kursk region. It's an area kind of sort of like Maine. It's where it's sparsely populated, and they've taken a fairly large chunk, and they've forced over 100,000 Russians out of their homes and stuff and had to leave because they're in there. Now picture if at the same time they got a whole bunch of these long-range missiles. Think from a vantage point position like that, what damage they could do inside America if that was the case. If we reverse this situation so that you guys can see that they could bomb Washington from that position with long-range missiles. How would that go over? So it's a similar thing. I mean, they could bomb Moscow from Kursk with these long-range missiles and stuff. I think the longer-range JAXM, I think they're called JAXM or whatever, the United States is thinking about providing them. The longer-range JAXMs, I think, can go like, what is it, 500 or 600 miles or something? An awful long distance they can travel, and they're very accurate and so on. And so they're gathering these missiles together, but they're not allowed to use them yet. So Zelensky here, he's pushing for the use of these longer-range missiles. And so it says Ukraine needs the ability, he says, to strike deep within Russia now. Not later, but now. And so President Vladimir Zelensky is urging top U.S. and allied military leaders on Friday in Germany as Kiev, in other words Ukraine, continues to press its case that without long-range strikes and bolstered air defenses, it faces a bleak winter. So it's not just Secretary Lloyd Austin. It's also, we've got, and not just Zelensky. We have the parliamentary speaker, Stefan. We'll just call him Stefan. I think it's Stefanachuk. He's urging Johnston to lift restrictions on long-range weapons. It says Russian Stefan, Speaker of Ukraine's Parliament, and U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson in a meeting in Italy on September 5th in 2024. Says Stefanachuk, Speaker of Ukraine's Parliament, met with U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson on Italy on September 5th to discuss lifting restrictions on long-range Western weapons to strike deep inside Russian territory. It says Washington still prohibits Ukraine from using these long-range Army tactical missile systems, or ATACMS, and other long-range U.S.-supplied weapons for strikes deep inside Russia, officials have said. So there's a big push on by Ukraine right now to try to use these long-range missiles inside Russia. And potentially, I can see where this could really, that's why I use that illustration, to help you guys see where if they get the use of these long-range missiles, they could do tremendous damage. I'll just say that. That's what I think anyway. That's what I perceive these long-range missiles could do. Is tremendous damage. That's what they're designed to do. They're very expensive weapons systems. And they're not made by some country like... They're not made by the Houthis. They're not made in Zimbabwe. They're not made in places where they can't make a sophisticated weapon. They're made by the U.S. forces, the military-industrial complex that creates them, and they know what they're doing. They know how to make a sophisticated weapon. Probably some of the best sophisticated weapons in the world at this point in time. Now, at the same time, we've got these forces gathering, Russia, China, Iran, and they're trying to manipulate things. It says U.S. government's on high alert how Russia, China, and Iran are interfering in presidential elections. Now, evidently here it says that Russia has invested a lot of money. I guess it's $10 million to engage American influencers. Some boasting millions of followers. It's not like during World War II, when people would remain loyal to their country. Now we're in a time where a little bit of propaganda goes a long way. And this is indicative to me of part of what's going to cause this enormous problem that I see coming, is the attitudes of the people out there. I just wish the people had the moral fortitude that they did have during World War II. But they're not loyal to anybody. They're disloyal. And it's just like, the Bible talked about this. It said they'd be disloyal, having no natural affection, and they would... it goes on and on. It lists exactly the qualities of the people today. And what creates this? It's this... A lot of it is this flood of media that's coming over all these cell phones. TikToks and everything else. It's all... In my mind, it's all kind of like this whole thing that started with all this influencers and all this stuff. I hate all this stuff that's going on. I like the world that we had back before we went in for all of this electronic stuff, that really, it's, as far as I see, it's just making the world harder, and it's making it harder to deal with, and it's also making the people out there it's having an effect upon them, an enormous effect. You could probably see that effect the best if you were to go someplace like New York City. Drive on the subways in New York City. If you survive it. I mean, it's actually... It's a weird world we're living in right now, at any rate. Let's talk about this. The Russians are now... it says a Russian cargo ship has 20,000 tons of explosives, and it's sparking alarm in NATO territories because evidently it's sailing through NATO territories. It says a Russian cargo ship loaded with 20,000 tons of ammonium nitrate, which is fertilizer, but I'm going to explain, it's very explosive fertilizer. It's raising concerns after docking in the Norwegian port of Tromsø, a city in a NATO member country. Oh, by gosh, the people in that city, I'm going to tell you, were in huge danger, and they probably didn't even know that city of Tromsø, a Norwegian port, in the Norwegian port next to that city. Probably thousands and thousands of people lived there, and they were probably in extreme danger, and they didn't even know, and I'll tell you why. Because that's 20,000 tons of something that's probably the equivalent of TNT. And they measure nuclear explosions, in TNT. A kiloton is 1,000 tons of TNT. And this is 20,000 tons of something very similar. I'm going to explain to you that Hiroshima, I think, was like 12,000 tons. It's bigger than Hiroshima. In fact, this is probably almost the equivalent of Hiroshima and Nagasaki put together. 20,000 tons. And of course that picture's, maybe it is on board the cargo ship. Maybe that's what the cargo looks like. But there's a hell of a lot more of it than there. They'd probably have to take that picture 1,000 times over to equal the amount of it at 20,000 tons. I don't know, maybe each one of those things weighs a ton, and there might be 100 of them there. So it might be 100 tons there. But we're talking 20,000 tons of this stuff. So what in the heck's going on? The Russians are sailing this cargo ship through NATO ports, and they could use that as they don't have to, with something that powerful, they don't have to blow it up at sea, or blow it up right in the city, but they could blow it up in the harbor and take the whole city out with something that... See, I'm going to tell you guys, back, I guess it was a little bit over 100 years ago or whatever, right here where I live, there's a major port. It's called the Port of Halifax. And it still is a major port for the world. In fact, if we get in some sort of a nuclear war or whatever, it would be a target because it's such a good port. In fact, it was more of a port than some of the bigger what's now bigger harbors, like in the 1800s and stuff. It was a tremendously used port. And so during I think it was World War One, they were parking ships in there like this, with a cargo of explosives heading over to do the war effort or whatever. And the ship got burned and it got on fire and exploded, and it caused what was called the Halifax explosion, which was the biggest explosion up till its time. That was not nuclear. It took out the whole city of Halifax. In fact, there's stories. There was this one telegraph operator or whatever, and he was like way up on the hill, and he was like a mile away or a mile and a half away from the harbor. And he seen the ship burning, and he knew that there was explosives on board. So he was running around telling people, run for the hills, run, it's gonna blow. And they were like, get out of here. Look how far away that is. It's like 2 miles away. We're safe here. He says, no, you don't understand. The power, he said. They should have run. They should have run. When you're dealing with something that's this powerful, you could be like a whole mile away. That doesn't mean you're going to survive it. We're talking nuclear power, almost as powerful as nuclear, when there's that much of it, when there's something so that heavy and that much, like 20,000 tons. We can't even wrap our head around 20,000 tons. Anyway, moving on. Look at what's happening here, guys. Native workers in the United States, this means people who are born in America, lived in America all their life. They've lost, since 2019, which is not very long ago, well, basically since COVID, they've lost almost 1.4 million jobs are gone. That's that red line down there. They're the Americans, people born in America or maybe lived all their life in America, they've lost all those jobs. Like 1.5 million jobs, or close to it, 1.5 million jobs. That's that red line. But the foreign-born people who are come here and stuff from other places, they're gaining jobs. They've gained 3 million jobs in the United States, foreign-born workers. That's an interesting chart. So we see where a lot of the jobs are going. Now, we got our silver today, and we've lost $1.10. I don't think this is going to last. The markets are falling today, and I think this is kind of like a result of that. I think, but I don't think this is going to last. I think this is just a fluctuation. I think I think that we could be hit. I think they're overcooking it a little bit here on the silver, dropping $1.10 today at $27.65. I wouldn't be surprised if it bounces back up into $28-29 territory in the next few days. That's what I'm kind of expecting with this. So it makes a good chance for people who are cost averaging and still buying into silver, and their cost averaging. This makes a good little opportunity. Now in cryptos today, we're seeing the Bitcoin price at 54,121. Ethereum is at 22.78, and we're looking at our XRP at 52 cents. And the markets are rolling over a bit today. Where are my markets? Here. Whoop. Up to the top of the page and take a look here. And we're seeing a Dow Jones that's fell off 366 points at 40,359. The S&P has fell a bit harder than the Dow. It's fell 93 points, so it's at 5,410. And we're taking a look at crude oil, which has fell off $1.91 to 67.24. So, right when we're getting to the point where the Fed is getting ready to start really cutting rates, that time is pretty much now. This is when we can expect volatility, a lot of volatility in the markets, and also at the same time, it's like it's like the last whoop-de-doo what they're doing here. You know, it's all getting ready to change directions. Things are getting ready to change directions really fast. So they say they've added 142,000 jobs. August report. Unemployment rate falls to 4.2%. Labor market adds 142,000 jobs. What kind of jobs are they? See, this is an awful lot of my thing now. It's good jobs are disappearing, and they're getting all these yuck jobs. I'll call them yuck jobs out there. You know, you get a job and you get 15 hours a week and you paid the minimum wage, and it's a yuck job. There's lots of yuck jobs coming in. And the good jobs out there, full-time jobs with good benefits and everything else, they're going the way of the Goonie bird. They're disappearing. Taking a look at our bonds and rates today, we're seeing falling yields. So we're looking at the 10 years fell 3.72. It's fell 1 basis point, and the U.S. 30 years fell 0.3 of a basis point, and it stands at 4.02. The yields are falling today. Taking a look at our dollar index today, and we're seeing that the dollar is at 101.32, and it's up 1/4 penny, or 0.21%. The dollar's climbing today. A little bit stronger. Yeah, they might do a 50 basis point cut. You know, and the Bank of Canada is cut, and now they're cutting again. So, I can see the economy falling as they're cutting. So they'll be cutting rates, and the economy will be collapsing, and they'll cut faster and faster. Now at this point. That's what we got to look forward to. Inflation's going to go faster and faster as they cut, but you're not going to be able to pay for anything because you're going to probably lose your job. You know? And don't worry, though. They'll have a new job for you. 15 hours a week at minimum wage. Meanwhile, a can of beans is going to go to $100. So, I mean... I'm being a little bit sarcastic, guys, but this is how they're running the economy. This is how the people that are in charge right now, right this minute, are running the economy. But don't worry, because they're going to offer you probably, they'll offer you the moon, and they'll offer you a turkey in every pot. You know, I mean, I'm just politics, you know, out there it seems like it's slowly, just like the price of everything, slowly rising. Politics out there is getting more and more corrupt all the time, little bit by little bit by little bit. Where's all that going in the end? Thank you guys for listening to my show. You guys have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.